I want to present you with something that's been eating away at millions of lives, yet hardly anyone talks about it. Right now, as you watch this video, there's a voice inside your head that's quietly destroying everything you could become. And here's the terrifying part. You've been listening to it your whole life, thinking it's trying to protect you. But what if I told you that voice is the reason you're stuck? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about failure. Something invisible is wreaking havoc on human potential across the globe, and it doesn't need to raise its voice or make threats to inflict its damage. This force operates through whispers, planting thoughts like, "You're not capable enough," or "You'll just fail again, so why bother trying?" This destructive internal dialogue masquerades as humility or practical thinking, but in reality, it's a devastating weapon you're unconsciously using against your own success. Albert Bandura, who became one of the 20th century's most groundbreaking psychologists, invested decades examining how humans behave and arrived at a conclusion that's simultaneously disturbing and empowering. According to his research, people fail to reach their objectives not because they genuinely lack talent or skill, but because they've convinced themselves they're incapable. Bandura named this destructive belief pattern low self-efficacy, and it functions like psychological poison that paralyzes your actions, weakens your resolve, and systematically sabotages every attempt you make toward improvement. Bandura's revelations completely transformed our understanding of why people succeed or fail. He proved that the relentless self-criticism we experience, that internal narrator constantly highlighting our shortcomings and replaying our mistakes, isn't merely a symptom of damaged self-esteem. Instead, this voice creates what Bandura identified as a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. The mechanism is devastatingly simple. You convince yourself that failure is inevitable, which leads you to quit prematurely or avoid trying altogether. When you don't make the attempt, you've just provided evidence supporting your original belief. The majority of people remain completely unaware they're caught in this vicious cycle. They genuinely believe they're being rational, humble, or realistic about their limitations. In truth, they're operating under the control of a warped self-image built from unprocessed past experiences, absorbed criticisms from others, and fears they've never properly examined. What makes Bandura's discovery even more disturbing is his proof that this internal dialogue doesn't just affect your motivation or choices, it directly impacts your physical body. Research conducted with athletes, students, and working professionals demonstrated that self-defeating thoughts actually alter people's physical and mental performance in measurable ways. Anxiety spikes, muscles tense up, thinking becomes confused and clouded. Your body literally begins failing in response to a lie your mind has told itself. Perhaps the most shocking element of Bandura's work is this revelation, that critical voice isn't actually yours. It was constructed and programmed into you, often during your earliest years. This voice emerged from the criticisms you received, the comparisons others made, the failures you misunderstood, and the negative examples you witnessed growing up. Bandura's most hopeful message is that this mental programming can be rewritten. For decades, Albert Bandura devoted himself to understanding what truly separates people who accomplish remarkable things from those who live far below their capabilities. He discovered that while ability certainly matters, your belief in that ability matters significantly more. He gave this belief a powerful designation: self-efficacy. Self-efficacy isn't the same as self-esteem or vague positive thinking. It represents your firm conviction that you can organize and execute whatever actions are necessary to achieve a specific result. When someone genuinely believes in their capability, they persist through difficulties. When they doubt their ability, they retreat, even when they possess every tool needed for success. Bandura discovered that low self-efficacy doesn't merely limit what a person does. It literally programs them for failure. People harboring negative beliefs about themselves typically avoid challenges because they're convinced they cannot overcome them. When they do attempt something, they abandon their efforts at the first sign of difficulty. When they somehow achieve success, they immediately attribute it to luck or external circumstances, never to their own capabilities. If what you're hearing resonates with you, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button and join the PsychCore community. Your support means everything. One of Albert Bandura's most unsettling discoveries involved how negative internal dialogue transforms into a perfectly engineered system of self-sabotage. Everything begins with a seemingly innocent phrase, "I'm not good enough." When this thought gets repeated frequently enough, it transforms into an unquestioned belief, and this belief seeps into every aspect of behavior. Bandura identified 4 central patterns that emerge from this defeatist mentality. The first pattern is avoiding challenges. When someone believes they won't be able to handle a particular situation, their natural response is avoiding any confrontation with it. This is precisely where potential begins dying. The second pattern involves quitting early when difficulty appears. Even when the person makes an attempt, the slightest resistance becomes sufficient confirmation of their incompetence. Rather than interpreting mistakes as natural parts of learning, they view them as definitive signs of incapacity. The third behavior involves attributing success to external factors while attributing failure to internal ones. When people with low self-efficacy achieve positive outcomes, they immediately devalue their accomplishments. They claim it was luck, circumstances, or help from others. The credit never belongs to them. The fourth and most insidious pattern is obsessively focusing on personal deficiencies. Instead of recognizing strengths or identifying areas for improvement, the individual fixates on everything they believe is wrong with themselves. This generates chronic psychological helplessness. Most people assume that thoughts exist exclusively on a mental plane, like abstract ideas floating through consciousness. But Albert Bandura proved this view is dangerously naive. What you think, especially about yourself, directly affects how your body functions. Thoughts such as, "I can't do this" or "I'm going to fail" don't remain trapped in your mind. They descend into your nerves, into your muscles, into your cardiovascular system. When you tell yourself you're incapable, your body interprets that statement as a threat signal. Your sympathetic nervous system activates, leading to increased heart rate, shallow breathing, muscle tension, and cortisol release. Instead of accessing your best cognitive resources, focus, memory, creativity, flexibility, you experience a drastic performance drop precisely when you need to be present and functional most. But if the mind possesses enough power to sabotage the body, can it also train the body for success? Bandura believed absolutely. He developed practical, scientifically based methods to reverse this cycle, techniques to restructure internal dialogue, rebuild self-efficacy, and unleash dormant potential. Albert Bandura wasn't merely a theorist of despair, he was a builder of solutions. One of his most revolutionary contributions was demonstrating that self-efficacy isn't a fixed trait. It can be built, strengthened, and restored even in people who've spent their entire lives believing they're incapable. The first step, according to Bandura, is breaking the overarching narrative. Thoughts like, "I am incompetent," or "nothing I do works out," are dangerously vague, generic, and inflexible. Bandura proposed replacing these absolute labels with specific process-oriented assessments. Instead of thinking, "I am bad at this," the focus should be redirected to, "I haven't learned this skill yet, but I can improve." The word "yet" is one of the most powerful words in modern psychology. It reintroduces time, learning, and movement. Another central strategy Bandura developed is vicarious modeling, observing people similar to yourself succeeding in activities you find challenging. When your brain witnesses someone ordinary, overcoming obstacles and achieving positive results, it begins considering that this is also possible for you. Bandura also emphasized the importance of recognizing and celebrating small victories. Every small achievement, a task completed, a difficult conversation faced, a fear overcome, should be consciously validated as evidence of growth. These small accomplishments are like bricks in the reconstruction of self-efficacy. Another crucial element is emotional reinterpretation. Bandura showed that many physiological signs we interpret as failure indicators, butterflies in the stomach, sweaty palms, rapid heartbeat, are actually signs of activation. The body isn't saying, "You will fail." It's preparing for action. What differentiates a high-performing athlete from someone who freezes is the interpretation of that activation. Finally, one of the most effective practices for strengthening self-efficacy is the conscious restructuring of internal dialogue. Replacing phrases like, "I'm not good at this," with, "I am in the process of learning," may seem simplistic, but it's profoundly transformative. The brain operates on repetition, and the more it hears an empowering narrative, the more that becomes the new standard. There's a type of silent pain that few people can identify, but it's present in almost all unfulfilled lives, the mourning for potential that was never explored. This isn't mourning for the loss of something you once had, but for the loss of something that could have been. A version of yourself that was silenced before it even had a chance to be born. What Bandura revealed in his research is that this silencing doesn't happen due to lack of talent or absence of opportunity. It happens because of one deeply rooted idea: it's not worth trying because I will fail. Every choice made based on doubt is a fork in the road, taking the individual away from their original path. The truth, as Bandura proved, is that human potential is vast, adaptable, and expandable. But it needs internal permission to emerge. As long as the mind is occupied with narratives of failure, judgment, and fear, there will be no room for true capability to manifest. The great turning point proposed by Bandura is this: your potential is not dead. It's hidden beneath layers of self-criticism, fear, and misinterpreted experiences. The key to accessing it isn't in the external world, but in how you choose to see yourself from now on. The voice you hear inside your head every day, the one that criticizes, judges, belittles, and paralyzes, is not you. It sounds like you, uses your words, knows your fears, speaks with your intonation. But it's been shaped by factors often beyond your control: traumatic experiences, poorly processed failures, toxic comparisons, childhood criticisms. This internal voice that says you can't has been constructed. Like any mental construction, it can be deconstructed. Albert Bandura shows us that self-efficacy arises from directly confronting this voice. It only begins growing when you stop passively accepting everything your mind says about who you are. The goal is to make this voice no longer the judge of your life, but merely a distant, irrelevant echo that no longer dictates your path. The only thing separating who you are today from who you can become is the story you accept as true about yourself. If that story has been small, limited, and suffocating, perhaps it's time to write a new one where your self-efficacy isn't a reflection of the past, but the tool with which you build the future. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "I am not my critical voice." This simple act can be the first step to breaking the cycle and taking control of your narrative. And don't forget to subscribe to PsychCore. Here we dig deep to find the truths that set you free. I'll see you in the next video.